Hello and welcome to the Metapod, the Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around in the evolving meta. We haven't revolved once, we've revolved twice today already, and I have driven to and from Indianapolis like 90 minutes going down, 90 minutes coming back, like 3 days in a row.
Oh my god,
I'm gonna die.
Is it for like family or work or like getting your stuff or what?
So the first two, so Friday and Saturday, I was calling stats for a big volleyball tournament that my old work holds every single year. And so they always need people for this tournament. And this was the biggest tournament that they had in the last like 3 years or so. They just invited more teams, so they needed more people. So I was like, I'll help. You're paying, so I'll help out. And then yesterday I went to a small, like less than 100-person wedding for one of my Pokemon buddies, Kyle Ritchie. Kyle and Ashley, congrats on getting married. I wrote on the card. I wrote on the card for the gifts. I said, P.S. Don't let Kyle spend this on Pokemon cards.
That's a real friend right there. Being like, I know the problem
because they both play Pokemon. They both play the Pokemon trading card game. So it's like, it's a good joke. It's a good joke.
Everyone's laughing at that one. That's good.
Sean, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm prepping for Digimon, like Gen Con stuff, and testing out. When I first started the stream, like the recording with Jake, I was on the wrong camera and he saw all the decks that I'm currently working out. So
I was like, oh, Sean and I are going to be playing some decks today. We're going to be playing some practice games on the Metapod. That would be cool.
But I actually did play a little bit of Pokemon. I've built 2 physical decks. And I know I think I talked about like last week, maybe, like selling my Drizziles in bulk and feeling bad. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I did. I sold a bunch of Drizziles with my bulk. It was very sad. But yeah, I have 2 decks fully built. I played a little bit of that last week. Felt good. Rapid Strike Urshifu with Metacham. I don't know if it's actually that meta. Probably not. But Metacham is so good. Metacham is so good.
Yoga Loop kind of freaky though.
Yeah. But I mean, like, take an extra turn, which means if you've got 2 of the quick shooting Inteleons on board, that's like several more damage counters, which might be just the number you need for Rapid Strike to close out the game with that extra turn. It's gross. Absolutely gross.
If you whiff an energy on a turn with Urshifu, like boom boom, you just got your 2 energies pretty much.
Yep.
Like there's so many different like cool things that you can do with Rapid Strike Urshifu. But we are going to talk a lot about the meta today. That's like half of our I would say probably like 70%.
The majority. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a majority of the podcast today, but there was some other news that came out in Japan that there are a lot of different components. There's a lot to unpack with it. If you didn't see, you know what? Before we do that, we always have to do the 5-star review.
Okay,
always got to do the 5-star review. This one though, short and sweet, to the point. It's from I Am Donald Juan. Great content is the title, 5 stars. I no longer play the Pokemon TCG, but love to keep up with how the meta is doing. Keep up the great work, guys. Juan, thank you so much for the lovely review.
I will say, your sentiment has been basically what I have been doing. I no longer play the TCG, but love to keep up with what the meta is. That's basically been me for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually playing a lot more now that rotation hit. Been playing a lot more just like online in my free time. What free time? But you get the gist. I just want IRL back so bad. I want it so bad.
Yes. I want IRL, but I have several places now that are doing like locals, and so that's my goal. Is I have to coordinate when I go to Pokemon locals and when I go to Digimon locals, and now also, Jake, when I might go to Commander locals for Magic.
You're playing Magic now too?
I have a Commander deck now built. I have a problem.
What's that one card, like Black Lotus or whatever?
No, I don't have any of those.
Black Lotus in your Commander?
No, I'm not. I don't flex like that, Jake. I don't have.
That's like the real flex.
Yes, yeah. I have a $100,000 card in my deck. Like,
I've played a little bit of Magic. We played Arena. Somebody gifted me like a bunch of the theme decks and stuff, and I played around on Arena. It was pretty fun. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
it felt a lot cooler than playing Pokemon TCG theme decks, but it was way more complex.
Yes.
So it was a lot harder.
It is complex, and also, I mean, I'm playing Commander, so it's like a slightly different thing, but like with all the ability of old cards that were never meant to be played together, it can be wild, man. Like, I haven't played proper 4-person Commander yet. I've just been practicing with a friend. But yeah.
Did you say 4-person Commander?
Commander is a format that exists in Magic where it's 4 people, not 2. It's 4 people.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah, it's 4 people. Each of them have a 100-card deck. Each deck is a singleton deck, which is you can only have one of any card in the deck, except for basic lands, kind of like basic energy.
It's like the Gym Leader Challenge, but on steroids.
Yeah, yeah, and like you can use any card, and you're not restricted by anything other than the colors in your commander. This isn't a Magic podcast, but the more and more TCGs I play at like a semi-competitive or whatever level, the more appreciation I have when I do come back to Pokemon for a variety of things. Like I really
agree with that. I mean, I did a bit of Digimon, and I've done a little bit of Magic, and I think honestly it made, like, playing Magic Arena for like a week, like, made me a better Pokemon player. I don't know.
We should line up a few experts on other card games to talk about how it made them better Pokemon players. Like, it's an interesting episode.
There is overlap, and we can get like people that have done like Hearthstone, and like Steven's done Cardfight Vanguard. Like,
yep,
we can get all the card games, all the card games. Sean, My Little Pony. That was an actual game.
I mean, I'm looking back at my shelf, and I have about 3,000 My Little Pony cards.
3,000? I opened up a booster box one time for stream. It was like the funnest thing we've ever done.
They're cute.
It was so out of the blue.
They're cute. I can tell you the card game, Garbo. I personally did not enjoy playing it. I have all these cards a friend of mine bought. Eventually, I'll learn a little bit more about it, but I didn't enjoy it.
But you know what you should learn about, Sean?
What?
You should learn about the big Japan update that happened on Sunday the 12th. Some big news was announced. They had teased this big TCG announcement, and everybody was like, oh my god, it's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, look at all this stuff, PTCG Live dropping. Sean, everybody's guess out the window. Nobody on social, if you did predict what happened here on social media, you're a liar. I don't believe you. Sean, the Start Deck 100 got revealed. This is an interesting thing. 100 different decks are being released in Japan. 100 different pre-made decks. Now, here's the kicker. It's basically like buying packs, Sean. You buy one of these Start Deck 100s, you don't know what you're going to get in it. You might get a Pikachu one, you might get a Kingler one, you might get your third Rayquaza in a row. It's like a booster pack, but with theme decks.
I didn't realize that they were randomized, like on the inside, like you couldn't tell. One, I don't think we'll get this, but 2, I would love for this to come to America because this would be the best draft product.
Oh,
this would be amazing. Oh, not draft, sealed. Like we do sealed with
it
like.
It would be like a pre-release tournament almost.
It would, but you wouldn't need to change the deck, right? Like it would be more like Keyforge, where like you could buy an entire deck sealed for $8. These are 790 yen in Japan, which is about $8. So you buy it for like say $10, right? Whatever, some easy buy-in, and then you basically can have sealed Pokemon. And what they could do is have like every year another set of however many come out. That is the new sealed format.
That's very interesting.
Okay. And I will say, Jake, this actually, it may actually come to America. The only reason I say that is, do you remember the survey that Pokemon sent out nigh on a year ago or something like that, where they asked people about different formats, legacy, like what they enjoyed playing, what they would like seeing.
Yeah.
This is so wild. It may have some relation to that survey.
I think it has validity because, like, the casual player base is so much more bigger, and like collectors, you already have, the Leonhards, the real breaking Nates, like opening up packs and stuff, and people just buying and collecting. just think about like packs with theme decks. You know, maybe that gets a bunch more people to start playing, and then you can also hold like at your store like these pre-release tournament event type things where like you buy in, you get a pre-made deck, and then you do a tournament, and it could be like very adhering to like new players that want to come to League, you know, different than the once a week weekly League night. You know, whether the day before the usual local meetup or the day after or whenever's most convenient for the people. You do that. You adhere, and you just say everybody's going to do this instead or something like that. I don't know if that necessarily like a league type thing, but like a every 2 months or something, having like a tournament night. I mean, whatever.
I'm not going to lie, Jake. I'm a little tempted because at only $8 a pop. Yeah, there'll be a markup to ship them to America, but I'm tempted to try to buy like 20 of these, 30 of these. And
see,
and just
I can just imagine your thumbnail, Sean. We got the Charizard V deck.
Yeah, like just to like get a bunch of these, and then have my own like mini tournaments of sealed with friends, and be like, if we don't know what a card does, we just like we'll look it up, right? But like that'd be pretty neat. I don't know, that'd be pretty.
There
neat.
are though, Sean, some cards that you will know how to use, including a reprinted card, Ultra Ball, if you haven't seen it within the last 5 minutes on the YouTube video, because it's been shown right in front of you. Ultra Ball is coming back in a reprint. It was rumored. People were like, it's got to be coming back. It's got to be coming back. And here it is coming in these starter decks. Ultra Ball, for those of you that don't know, is a Pokeball. With if you discard 2 cards from your hand, you're able to grab any Pokemon. Doesn't matter what Pokemon it is. It could be an evolution, can be a break card, can be a basic Pokemon, whatever you need. And it's very, very good. Every time it's in standard, it's literally a staple, and expanded, it's a staple. I don't think it's in legacy.
I don't think it is, but I mean, there's other cards.
If it is in legacy, I'm pretty sure it's a staple. But anyways, this is a very good card, and a lot of people are very, very excited about bringing this card back, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it briefly maybe last week, but like, you know, they announced that it was coming back. We were like, what product is it coming in, and when will it come to America? That was that. It's still a question of when will this reprint come to America.
It'll probably just come in a regular set.
Yeah, it probably, because like these come out December 17th, which suggests that that's when they would be legal in Japan. You know, extrapolate 3 months from that. So you're looking at our
February set
January, like basically, yeah, probably it's going to be in our February set.
January or February. It's yeah. I think it was February this past year because everything got pushed back a month or whatever.
Yeah.
So it would be like the January set. Probably either that or the April.
March. Yeah. That seems like a long gap. So like, yeah, maybe we'll see. We'll see where it comes out for us.
It could literally, after seeing this, I can't expect anything anymore from the Pokemon Company, but there are a lot of cool cards in here, Sean, including a new V and V-Max. It is Kingler.
Yep.
Sean, Kingler V. If you could go to Kingler V real quick. I just want to talk about the first attack. It basically has the first attack on the V and V-Max, which is very interesting in itself. But the V card says, for 1 water, flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for 5 water energies and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you'd like. 5 water energies, attach them anywhere, and all you got to do is hit heads forehead with Glimwood Tangle in the format.
That's I think what you play this with, right? And the question
you have to.
The question for me is like, what Pokemon do you play this with? Because like water energy is like, you have Melanie, right? Most of the good water type Pokemon are like not, you know, like they don't need a lot of energy. Like Ice Rider is an example. It really just needs 2.
Lapras, in my opinion.
That's exactly. I was
Lapras or Wailord.
Wailord's kind of nice. Yeah, I like this as if you played like an only 2 prizer deck with Kingler as your starter, V and Wailord V, and you just throw in some Cape of Toughness, and that could be really good.
Is Heroes Metal legal?
I believe so. Yeah, I want to say Heroes Metal is legal, but is Hero's Medal only on evolution, or is it? I think Hero's Medal only applies.
It's a V-Max. Oh, it's a V-Max. That's right. Oh, shoot. Well, you could go into the V-Max, Sean, because, I mean, it's got the same first attack.
You could if you needed to, yeah.
You could if you wanted to, but the interesting thing is the second attack as well, because they're basically the same water, colorless, Sean, and both attacks do 30 damage to the Kingler V-Max. It's just between the Kingler V, it's 200 damage, which is pretty good, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then the V-Max is 240, which is, in my opinion, severely underwhelming when your V does 200.
I mean, for me, I look at this and I'm just like, well, I don't need the V-Max. I'll stick with the V, thank you very much. Because
I will say, though, Kingler V-Max is like the coolest out of all the V-Maxes.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, look, he's got a giant beard. Very cool looking.
Santa Claus.
Yeah. Santa Crab.
Santa Crab. But there's a lot of other cards coming in here, too. I mean, there's going to be like 100 different decks, Sean. So we only know a fraction of this stuff. One of the ones that people are talking about as of right now that could be played in decks today is this new Zamazenta V that we're getting. It's a different Zamazenta. It's got 10 less HP, still a metal Pokemon than the one we have now. Has an ability as well called Royal Stance. You can use this ability once during your turn. If you do, your turn ends. Discard your hand, draw 5 cards.
I mean, I think it may not be the best card immediately, but this is a filthy card. Like, you think about Tropical Beach, right? This is kind of Tropical Beach-ish, right?
Yeah.
And it has the effect of also, like, you can mill through your deck very quickly. So if you were playing a deck that is like a control deck, what you want is to eventually get through all of the cards in your deck as quickly as possible so that you can start your loop, whatever that loop may be.
And also, you look at it like, even in a regular deck, you know, you're not playing a control. I said regular as if control is not regular. It's only for us weirdos. But if you're playing like a traditional, what people like to play, kind of attacking style deck, well, let's just say like Zacian Zamazenta Turbo with the Chameleons, the Inteleons, Sean. You could have a one of in there, and this is basically your safety net for like not having a draw supporter. You know, you're probably playing a deck that plays like Metal Saucers, right? So you're okay discarding some energies at times. If you don't have, like, let's say you have no way to evolve into Drizzile or Inteleons, or you don't have any draw support at all, like you literally have a dead hand, this is easy. You don't even have to be in the active for this. You just have that on the field, and then all of a sudden you can just get a fresh hand. Fresh new hand. Don't like the Marnie that your opponent just put you in? Boom, just get rid of it. Just boom right there. Easy. Yeah. So this is a very like interesting card. I don't know if it's better than the other Zamazenta.
Very different.
People are playing a lot of Path to the Peak right now, although that would also halt this pretty bad.
Yeah, Path to the Peak. I think the fact that Path to the Peak would be out, although this is block F and Path to the Peak, I believe, is block E.
I'm pretty sure it's block E.
Yeah, so there will be a window when we may not have a Path to the Peak like card in like a year and a half, but that's stupid to think that far out, to be frank.
That's so far away, Sean. My goodness. Yeah. Oh, no. Zamazenta V is D.
Yeah, the Zamazenta, the original Zamazenta is D. That's the base set Sword and Shield. But
D. I thought it was E. That's my bad.
Yeah, but no, Path to the Peak is probably E.
Yeah. I think so. So. Another one that I want to mention that a lot of people are mad about, Sean, if you could go down to Crushing Hammer.
Oh, yes.
Crushing Hammer is getting a regulation F. So F in the chat, boys, gals, and non-binary pals, because it looks like Crushing Hammer is going to be in the format even longer. And we hate to see it, Sean.
I mean, it's it doesn't surprise me though. Like, when has Crushing Hammer rotated? Think about it. Like, there's never been a format since we've been playing when it's been rotated.
I think maybe like before it came out in Celestial Storm, there might have been a time when it wasn't around.
Yeah, but there's just, I think it's kind of one of those cards like Ultra Ball obviously went away, but like basic Pokemon search in some form, whether that's Quick Ball, Nest Ball, whatever it might be, there's always going to be a basic Pokemon search. I think that the style of the game is there's always going to be a remove an energy card on a coin flip. Because I just think that's, like there's probably a few cards that define what it means to play the Pokemon TCG, and this is, I think, just one of them. And
disruption.
Yeah, the ability, because you think all the way back to the early days of Pokemon, you had energy removal and super energy removal, which is way worse than this card.
That is also the day where you could play 4 researches in the same turn.
Yes. Yeah, let me just Professor Oak over and over and over again. And now I don't have a deck.
That to me is absolutely wild. Apparently, I mean, if you watch the Tricky Gym videos, he's got like a bunch of videos on like the old formats and stuff.
Yep.
Where they play like the same old rules as back in the day. He goes over some of those, and you go real fast with those decks. You go bills, you 4 bills, 4 research. That's like what 34 cards just right there that you see. Insane.
I mean, the only other card I want to point out, because the rest of this is like cool, there's some other reprints, but you could open up your $8 pack and get the Rayquaza V and V-Max deck. Now, we don't yet know how many Vs and V-Maxes you're getting. I would say for $8, it's probably a 1/1 line of any V or V-Max.
I could see a 2/1 line.
Maybe, yeah, maybe a 2V line. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. If you get lucky and get a few Rayquaza V-Maxes out of that, that's a steal.
Too bad Rayquaza V-Max is bad.
I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate.
For now.
Yeah.
It's bad for now. We're still very, very early and premature in the meta. I just think about this, and I just think of the kid, and the parents that buy these products, and, they just don't want to play the same deck against each other. They don't want to play Pikachu V versus Pikachu V. They just want to play a different deck. They want to have something else, but all they can do, they just bought their 5th thing in a row, and it's Pikachu V. Like it just feels bad.
Yeah, or maybe there's only like 2 or 3 starter decks available, so it's kind of boring, right?
But, it's exciting that there's 100 different decks, and statistically, you're probably not going to pull a double.
Yeah.
But it's just
and
I don't know. It makes me feel weird that they've become like packs.
I mean,
makes me feel really weird.
I like it. The reason being is Pokemon. This is only Japan. I'm always in the back of my mind this may not be America, but
yeah,
if it does come to the West, I also think it's a great way for Pokemon to offload the excess inventory that they might have from older sets, because you could imagine them being hey, Rebel Clash, great example of a set that even at the height of all of the craziness of Pokemon, you could still find Rebel Clash, right?
Yeah, that's like Vivid Voltage now.
Right. It's it's one of those things where it's maybe you have some Vs and V-Maxes plus some of the cards from that set. That makes up a slightly higher percentage of these decks. So in terms of a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense, because it repackages all these cards that you may have printed and ordered but have not yet been put into product, that you have a new product that you can sell at a low cost that offloads a lot of that inventory. And I like this idea a lot. Even if as a super competitive player, it's a terrible way to collect cards, but as a casual,
an awful way to collect cards. Yeah. Unless you're literally just starting to collect.
But this is also a nice thing, because you got to think most of these are going to have somewhat standard draw engines. All the decks
they're gonna have staples in it. We already know Ultra Ball is going to be in it. And I guarantee there's going to be a research boss, maybe a Marnie in some of them. It's gonna get quick balls and all that stuff. It's gonna get good cards.
So if you went to a couple of these and you're you know what, I'm hooked, I love this, I want to build my own deck, you might already have most of the staples that you need for any given deck, which is another huge bonus. Anyways.
I will say though, speaking of like decks and stuff like that, I've actually had a couple people ask me where you can get Drizzles, right? Because Drizzles are super expensive. I had some people message me on like Instagram too, as well. Fans of the pod, so shout outs to all of you. I believe the Drizzles came in the Inteleon Battle Arena deck.
Yes, Celio's Luke bought, I think he bought a case or something like that, like 6 of them, just to get a bunch of extra Drizzles, because if you want to run 3 or 4 decks right now, you kind of need like 3 or 4 play sets.
Yeah, like I have 4 from back in the Sword and Shield base set days when I opened up a box over there. I got my play set. That's all I need. I just switch them out. I don't need to be spending $30 on another play set. But if you know you need maybe like 2 of them, or you need even more than just Drizzles, you know, maybe you need those Inteleons as well, the regular shading dealings from base set, or you need just any sort of staples, I guess, or you want some Inteleon V-Maxes or whatever. I think that would be the best product for you to get right now. I don't know how the pricing is, though. I don't know if those have shot up since Drizzles have become so expensive. It wouldn't surprise me because it's been a while since they came out. So like there's been a bunch of other decks to come out, but I think there was like 2 products of the Inteleon decks, I believe, right? There was like the level 1 and then a level 2 of it. I'm pretty sure.
It looks like the Inteleon League battle decks on TCG Player are about $20.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
It's
even
a good
if you
price.
only get 2 Drizzles.
Yeah, you may only get 2 of the Drizzles out of it, but so I don't know the exact list, so you could probably look that up, listeners.
Oh, yeah, Pokey Beach reported on that a while ago. I remember us talking about it. I just don't remember what was in it.
So, like, you know, and your local stores may also have some of these laying around still, but yeah, if you're looking to build any kind of deck and you don't have some of these cards, you know, you'll also, to Jake's point, get some Inteleon V-Maxes. So not horrible.
Not horrible, but not the best great V-Max you can get right now. But Sean, do you know what a lot of people are scrambling for right now?
What?
A lot of people are scrambling for Jolteon V-Maxes. Post-rotation has finally come, Sean. It's been 10,000 years since we've not had ADP in a format. And looky there. Now we're finally here. It is Sword and Shield base set on. Don't have to worry anymore.
You know what
about Sun and Moon.
You know what I remember when Pedro Tablemon was doing his Sword and Shield on tournaments like 6 months ago. And I believe we said that like we didn't really want to cover this tournaments because like there's still so many cards that are going to come out. And I will sit here and then just proclaim once again that sometimes like doing really early post-rotation predictions make no sense until you know exactly all the cards that are going to be a part of that. Because you look at these lists, none of these existed.
Think about it, Sean. If we just want to rattle off some right now, the Urshifus were not out yet. Yep. The Riders were not out yet. None of the evolutions were out yet. Suicune wasn't out yet. Like
Quick Shooting Inteleon,
I don't even think was out yet.
Quick Shooting Inteleon wasn't out yet, which is like kind of what makes this meta.
Which is we literally the title of last week's YouTube video for the podcast was the Inteleon meta.
Yeah. So Jake, do you want to jump into some of the results? Which one do you want to start with?
Let's go into the Sunday Open first, because if we look at the metagame, Sean, we look at the metagame, it's very, very interesting because Jolteon Inteleon, you can see it getting second place right up there. Sean's pulling up the list by Demetrius Eaton. In Jolteon V-Max, one that I blew off as well. I admit I blew this guy off. I said, this is not super great. But Jolteon V-Max, 100 damage to the active and 100 to the bench Pokemon if it already has damage counters on it. Combo that with the Quick Shooting Inteleon meta, as Sean and I call, maybe a Zigzagoon as well, like in Eaton's list. And you're eating. You're literally eating up your opponents, Sean. Very, very interesting.
I will say, this is also really interesting. They're running 2 of the elemental badges. I know when we did our set reviews, we were like all these, you know, EV evolution badges, like probably not good, blah, blah, blah. But weirdly, between Sylveon V-Max being good against, what is it? Shadowrider, and now Jolteon using the Elemental badge. I've even heard tell of playing some of the other, it's not for the badges, but it's playing the Jolteon that turns off abilities of water Pokemon being played. Like, I think, the evolutions are finally having a bit of their day, which is really nice to see because they're beautiful.
They're having a very pretty spotlight. I mean, we even went over Leafeon last week as well. Leafeon has the badge of the free retreat. Sylveon's badge, I think, is one less prize when it's knocked out. And then this one, if you don't know what this elemental badge is the Pokemon the card is attached to has Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon in its name, and it's a V Pokemon, which includes V-Maxes, Sean, because V-Maxes are considered Vs. The attacks cost 1 colorless less. So basically, your Jolteon V-Max is attach 1 lightning energy, and boom, you're doing 100 with that badge. It's pretty crazy. I mean, both today at the time of this recording, Azul and Andrew Mahone were playing it. Both live on stream. So Jolteons right now are the bee's knees, as they say.
Yeah, and you can run. It's funny, it's between this, Ice Rider, and a couple of others. I believe Dragapult as well. You can run Path to the Peak, which can severely limit a lot of the other big decks in the format, like Shadowrider, Calyrex. I guess Rapid Strike, it might hurt as well, specifically for the Crobats, maybe the Crobat engine a little bit.
Yeah, the difference between a Jolteon deck and an Urshifu deck is that Urshifu also kind of relies on Crobats. Any deck that has Crobats in it is, they're totally susceptible, as you're saying, to Path to the Peak. But you look at Jolteon right here, Jolteon, Leafeon, all these other decks, they don't need Crobats anymore, Sean. Remember, Crobat was the bee's knees. Everybody had one in their deck. Where's Crobat now?
I'll also say, Cheryl, perfect for this deck, because if you have Elemental Badge, it's a 1 attach attack. So you're like, yeah, I'll Cheryl away 1 lightning energy. And
especially because we're in a 2-hit format for a lot of these decks, anything that plays Melanie's or something, I think Cheryl's kind of a cool card.
Yeah.
The Urshifu, Rapid Strike Urshifu V-Max, I still think Cheryl's pretty all right as a one of, especially if you're playing something like Eldegoss in your deck, then for sure. But not a lot of people playing Eldegoss right now.
No. But yeah, Demetrius Eaton here. Really cool list. In terms of another deck, Jake, that I want to touch on, that we may have briefly mentioned it last week, but Dragapult V-Max has finally come back into prominence after a year, essentially, because I think Tord did well with it.
It was so dormant once Eternatus came out and just folded.
And Dragapult running those Path to the Peaks. It's funny. You look at the Jolteon deck and you look at this deck, and it's they're kind of mirrored in the Pokemon. It's just
they're pretty much the same. You got your Dragapults, you still have your Inteleons, Dragapult instead of Jolteon. You got your Goon there with a couple of nets, your level balls, incense, dust balls. You have Fog Crystal though, which is very, very nice for Dragapult. That's one of the reasons why Dragapult has been so nice, and people like Henry Brand. I believe Henry was the first person that I saw playing Dragapult. I don't know if they brought it back per se, but it's world champion we're talking about. And again, those Path to the Peaks, as we were mentioning, the Jolteon decks can play, Dragapult can play Path to the Peak, and it makes it really, really nice, especially against Eternatus, Sean, that's still somewhat around and is still somewhat a pile. The
thing that Eternatus doesn't necessarily have as much of is the ability to snipe little pings here and there. So I think a full bench with Eternatus, even if you don't have his effect on, it still knocks out a Dragapult, right? Because you're doing
it still does that, but it definitely throws them off their game.
Yeah, and I also think all of the Path to Peak, not just here but in other decks, probably makes Eternatus less viable against an entire field.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the meta share from the Sunday Open with Eternatus had a 24% win percentage out of 5 people. 24% out of 5 people. It won 6 out of 25 games.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. And also, A, nobody's playing it, and B, the people who are playing it are not doing well. So
yeah, that's the real kicker, you could say, in there. I mean, Rapid Strike Malamar is doing better than that.
Amazingly, granted, the first place from the Sunday Open was Shadowrider, so that is certainly bringing up these numbers a bit. But only 4 people played Shadowrider out of all of the decks. So, like, going from being one of the most played decks to being, like, absolutely not played. And then the other one being, I guess, Urshifu and Teleon still at 12 people playing it.
I think the biggest reason for the dip in Shadowrider is not because, like Eternatus is still around, or like because Umbreon V-Max single strike Urshifu is starting to become more and more popular. Like in this tournament, there were more Umbreon Urshifu single strike players than Shadowrider Calyrex, exactly double. There was 8 of them compared to the 4 of Shadowrider. Even with that, I think just the amount of Paths of the Peaks going on, and I mean you've got the Calyrex Alcremie, right? Yeah. But I think just all the Paths of the Peaks are really kind of steering people away from Shadowrider Calyrex. Comboing again with like more decks. Zacian had 37 different builds. There's Zacian Ludicolo, there's Zacian Zamazenta Inteleons. You can bail on the Zamazenta and just go Zacian Inteleons. Like there are so many decks as well that just play Path now. Also that it hurts Shadowrider because there's all your draw support.
I mean, speaking of Zacian, I think it's worth it to take a look at the new flavor of like basically
Turbo
metal
Zacian.
doggos. Yeah, turbo doggos. And because this is a very simple deck. I can't remember the last time I saw something other than maybe even Luke Metal had like a variety of tech cards in it. But this doesn't even have tech cards.
This was the closest thing to this, where it's just like 2 regular lines of cards. You got your quad Zacian, of course. You got 2 Zamazentas for any old V-Max that you got. Force them to play Path to the Peak or struggle. You have your Guru in there, which Guru making a comeback.
Yeah.
This Caleb Rogerson paired this with the Rotom phone though, so Guru makes a lot of sense. If you're Duck or you don't want to discard all 4 of your metal saucers at once. You can just Rotom phone, try to find like the Marnie or a Raihan or something to get your deck going even more. And just obviously, your quick ball switches and your draw supporters and boss and a bunch of metal energies.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking here, like this is just so, I guess it just relies on the fact that he hits hard and at most you're taking 2 prizes at a time, which means you're going to have to take 3 knockouts. And like, maybe the goal here is just to outpace your opponent. Going first, totally. Outpace them. Go first. Get them set up for a turn 2 230. Wall if you need to, but knowing that Path to the Peak is everywhere, so it may not matter.
It's like 270 on Zacian. Like that's not the easiest thing with that Cape of Toughness. Like 270 is not the easiest thing to hit.
I want to see,
especially consistently per se.
I'm trying to see like if there's any other kinds of lists, but it looks like it's all about the Cape of Toughness being rather than like a rusty sword. Toughness,
especially with the Crystal Cave, Sean, I think like there's just good cards.
Yeah. Like you're healing, you're stopping yourself getting into, Oko territory. Yeah. And like, there's no fire decks, so you're fine. You're like, nobody's playing Victini.
Not
Nobody.
A lot of Victini. It's starting to come up a little bit, especially after in the PTCGO League, Victini V placed 4th by Trainer Tips. It's creeping up a little bit, but it's not like when there was Reshizard, when there was like Green Zard, Ability Zard, Pidgeotto Blounds, regular Turbo Blounds, like and then Blounds GX. Like we're not in that kind of a fire meta.
Yeah, this is like, it's like control fire, like your hammers and yell grunts and rugged helmets,
rugged horns, tool jammers, path to the peaks. You got it all, Sean. You got all that you want. But Victini, especially, I mean, because crushing hammers as well was played a lot with Dragapult when Dragapult first started coming back, kind of like a week and a half ago ish, when people started talking about it again. I mean, this is the same thing. You have a lot of decks right now. Jolteon does single attachment turns. Urshifu does single attachment turns. Leafeon for the most part. Leafeon does single attachment turns. Dragapult does single attachment turns. Victini now without Welder has single attachment turns. So especially going aggressive on that kind of stall, you can really throw a lot of people off and like just be able to run house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting deck. I'm not gonna lie. It feels underwhelming. I think if you're playing a fire deck like a control deck, that's just not what any of those cards were really designed in mind to do. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's like if you are struggling to build a deck right now because of rotation and you don't like, there's no way that you can get your Leafeon V-Maxes or even Drizziles. Honestly, maybe you don't have any Drizzile, quick shooting Inteleons. I think that like Victini is like one of the better decks that you can play right now. Victini, the Zacian lists that are going around right now, you know, I think those are probably the ones that you might want to play.
The other deck, I'm just going to pull this up.
I'm pulling up all the fun decks
I'm pulling up all the fun decks, Jake. But I think there's some validity to these fun decks. Because if you think, right, like we are living in an Inteleon meta, but
we just keep saying that.
We are.
If you don't know by now, Inteleon's good. Write that down.
But like, what's a good counter to that? There's not a lot of counters. We don't have Stealthy Hood anymore. We don't have any of this stuff. But we do have Gallerian Wheezing, and I do think there might be a world in which Gallerian Wheezing is finally good. Because if you play it right, you could play a version that is you're forcing your opponent to, broadly speaking, take a one prize battle with you, which is wildly annoying for most decks to do. And if they can't snipe, and if they can't set up multiple KOs, right? And Gallerian Wheezing being 130 is super annoying. Because that means, like, you know, your Rapid Strike Urshifu is not knocking this out, especially if you didn't get any damage pings.
Unless it's in the active, because it's weak to fighting.
Okay, fine. If it's in the active, which it has to be.
It's a fairy Pokemon, but who asked me?
Which I guess it has to be in the active, but for the neutralizing gas. But I still like there's something interesting about Gallerian Wheezing. It's not going to win any tournaments, but
I do agree with you. Like the Wheezing is really, really cool because of that opportunity of like shutting down anything, literally anything that doesn't have an ability.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Like I want to see.
I know Josh Hatter was playing with the Galarian Snorlax, or not Snorlax, Slowbro, Slowking V-Max, where it puts 15 poison counters. Like that's an interesting idea.
I gotta see. Galarian Slowking V-Max is a one of. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned.
One dark, one colorless, 10 damage, base damage. It's a single strike, Sean. That's also a good thing to note. You could attach 2 single strike energies and do 50 base damage and then 15 damage counters of poison.
That's true. You could do that. I think, and look, they are playing the Galar Mine in this, which increases the retreat cost by 2, which... And I do think fewer decks are actually running fewer switches now. That's something in the last 6 months.
It's like mainly Zacian and like Rapid Strike Urshifu decks, I feel like, are running switches. Yeah. Because everything else can go like Air Balloon or just dies.
Yeah. And if you're running a combo of Tool Scrappers plus Galar Mines in here, and you can get some combo of that to stick, this could be really gross. So, and then the Wheezing, putting extra damage counters between turns, all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it'll win any tournaments, but certainly
it's a cool deck to play on ladder.
Yeah, definitely an interesting deck to play on ladder. Where do you want to go from here, Jake?
I mean, I just feel like right now in the meta, like I see results a lot on my Twitter timeline a lot. I don't know if we've had a healthier meta to start, at least. Mind you, this is the first weekend of post rotation. The meta is still very underdeveloped. It's going to change every single week. But how many, when was the last time we had this many decks in top 8s and stuff?
Man, I mean,
it has to be before Sword and Shield came out.
I mean, and even then there's there was always the deck.
Even then it was tough because when Sword and Shield came out, Tina Chomp died. But Tina Chomp ran a lot of the meta, Hunter Butler.
Yeah.
Well, that was expanded, but Tina Chomp was doing really, really well and took up a large chunk, and Guardy was going around, and few of us weirdos were playing Pidgeotto Control because Guru, I miss Guru.
I mean, I will say that there's a lot of variety. I think the problem that people are noticing right now is that Pokemon, they said in their design, Celios, Luke covered this actually, that they were designing for it to have weakness be more of a thing recently. And you can tell, right? You print Urshifu, and then you print Shadowrider, and then you print, Rayquaza, whatever. You print all these cards that hit the last card for weakness, so on and so forth. I think we are seeing the result of that in full force right now, which is any deck has the potential, or a wide variety of decks have the potential to win a tournament. But the deciding factor will be how much of every kind of deck gets played and how lucky you are to avoid your bad matchups. Because
I mean, it's tough. I mean, you almost need to I think that's why Suicune is thriving right now, because not a lot of people are playing Jolteon is getting more and more popular.
Yes.
But not a lot of people are playing Jolteon or Coco, stuff like that.
And, yes, the Lightning is getting a little bit more popular, but even still, Jolteon only hits 100, which with doubling that damage is 200. And Suicune
you'd have to ping with the quick shooting in order to OHKO.
It's not like Pikarom, they're the only card, Tapu Koko is the only Lightning deck that would have a meaningful impact in terms of weakness against these water types. And that is not going to see as nearly as much play as Jolteon, I think. And so even then, the weakness doesn't really matter. To your point, that's why Suicune is succeeding right now. But every other deck, outside of Rayquaza, which nobody's playing because it's not good in the format, the whole tournament is kind of decided on who gets paired with who from a weakness perspective. And then the tournament just plays itself out from there, right?
I think it was Vinny Fernandez in a tournament. They made it to the final, but their opponent was a mirror match of their opponent, and both of them hit Vinny for weakness. So Vinny was like, well, guess I'm going to lose in the finals no matter what. And it's it's very interesting. And I even did this the other, not too long ago. I played in Sleepy Dreepy's charity tournament. And I know that was in post rotation. It was Atlas Pog format, but still, I had a couple matchups where I literally just won because of weakness. It wasn't that I necessarily played better. I had still made mistakes in those matches. I still drew super poorly in a couple different situations, but it was only because my Brave Blade hit Ice Rider Calyrexes for 8,000 damage that I won.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's a complicated feeling I have. I won. I think it's a very healthy meta in that every type has for the most part, fire aside, every type really has a pretty good deck, a very playable deck. And so the format in every tournament will be different, but the fact that weakness has such a deciding factor in individual matches, that I think is super annoying. And so I wonder, and listeners out there, let us know how you're feeling playing, actually playing in some of these events. Because it's one thing to take the bird's eye view and say, super healthy meta, look at all these decks. It's another thing to actually play 7-9 rounds or whatever and feel like you miscut just because you had one extra, opponent that happened to hit you for weakness than some other guy. And like that just feels bad, right? Like, and that it shouldn't be decided.
I will say though, in terms of like deck building, so I think what a lot of people make a mistake on when they're deck building is they try to tech for everything. Especially right now, you cannot just beat everything. Like you have to take a loss. Like you have to accept that, like, okay, I'm just gonna lose to this deck, right? Because the more things you tech, the more inconsistent your deck is, and there comes to a point where you just tech too much and you start losing to all the other matchups, that you were once favored. So I think that this is kind of a good thing because we were at a point for a while where there was only like 3 decks or something like that. And so like it was like you had to beat all of those decks, but now it's impossible to do that.
Yeah.
So start just trying to make your deck more consistent and try to win your wins. But if you have something like Dragapult versus Eternatus, don't even try to beat Eternatus. Like you just take the L. Nobody's really playing it anyways. There's 5 people in a 300 person tournament that played it and they didn't do well at all. So like, just don't worry about it. It's letting people know that like about matchups. I feel like.
Yeah. And I think that rewards people who are really good at making meta calls, right? Like you go into a tournament, if you're the kind of person that wants to play the deck that you think is going to win and not just the deck you really enjoy, which is either one is fine. But the people who I think do well are the people who either because of luck or skill are able to correctly gauge what any given tournament might be. And they just happen to play the deck that has the least bad matchups relative to all the others. And then you win that tournament, and then the next tournament's going to be different. So that's one thing I'm not personally great at is making meta calls, Jake. But I think the people who
I
are...
just kind of play whatever I like playing.
Yeah. Which again, that's perfectly fine. But
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Sean, let's talk about the top 3 cards.
Okay.
That you're gonna miss with rotation now is gone. There are lots of cards gone. Sun and Moon base set, just out of here. Yep. We'll alternate. We'll alternate cards. So Sean, you go first. I'll let you have the whole pool of cards.
Oh,
which card are you gonna miss the most?
That is a tough one. I think I genuinely am gonna miss Welder the most because I had a lot of fun with Welder decks. They were super high rolly, but
you either hit Welder or you lose.
That's right. That's right, baby. And like it was a lot of fun though. Like, and it's in concept, it is such a broken card attached to fire energy, which like, it also is paired with so many other decks, right? Like colorless decks, you could pair it. Decks that need 1 color and 2 colorless, you pair Welder with that. Like imagine all of the decks that had like Welder Mewtwo. It was an enabler, I think, for so many archetypes that I think it was an amazing deck. It was a consistency engine on top of that. Like, yeah, I miss Welder. I'm going to miss Welder.
I think the card that I'm going to miss the most is Mew and Mewtwo Gx. I really, really like the style of decks, because we've had a couple cards like that in the past with like Marshadow GX and the Mew from, I think it was Fates Collide, that just allows to copy attacks. And you could build, there were so many decks that were built around Mewtwo and Mew GX, and there were so many GX cards that got some sort of viability, like Macargo GX. When Henry Brand used it to win Worlds, everyone was like, oh my god, Macargo, like what does this card even do? And like that was just such a cool thing. And to see like throughout its time, from the beginning in Unified Minds all the way up until like last week, it got a resurgence, like a week ago in Dark Box, a deck that was for the most part a meme that people tried again and again and again to make, but the Mew and Mewtwo made it like viable and helped made it like an actual deck. And I just I love that card. I love cards that do that kind of copying thing, and I'm gonna miss that one the most, I think.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Do you got one more, Sean? We'll share one more. We won't do a top 3. We'll just do 2 each. How about that?
Can
you even think of another card? I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
I mean, I can think of another card, but like, I don't know. It's either I'll put 2 out there. I'm gonna sneak another one in.
Okay, that's fine.
Jirachi.
That's fine.
Jirachi with Stellar Wish is just a great card. And for those of you who know the history of Pokemon, it is not the first Jirachi with Stellar Wish. There was a one back in the Deoxys days that was the same card essentially. So that it's a lot of fun. When it lost to Skateboard, though, it kind of lost a lot of its relevance.
Until Scoop Up Net came out.
Until Scoop Up Net, yeah, that's true. That's true. That kind of gave it new life. And then the other card that I actually liked, which I don't know if we'll ever see, we'll probably see something like this again, but Lieutenant Surge's Strategy. And I say that because the ability to double up on supporters, it was mostly used in control decks or mill decks, like stuff like that. But there was a level of flexibility that you had with like, if I can play a strategy that lets me play 2 supporters, like what could I do with that? And that is, I don't know, there's some pretty crazy stuff.
Especially when you go into a deck where, like, when Miss Magius was around, so with like Tina Chomp, Miss Magius being able to do that because you had Dust Stone, just to straight up evolve, and then all of a sudden you got to use Surge. Like, that was an incredible, cool combo. So I agree with that. I'm gonna miss Lieutenant Surge because it was in my deck that had me my best finish in the tournament with Guru.
So Jake, what about you? What's your second card?
I think the second card that I'm going to miss is Spiritomb.
Oh,
I'm going to miss the old Spiritomb with the Building Spite, I think it was called.
Yes.
Where you got to put a damage counter on yourself every turn. Because ever since that card came out, like, it was pretty sweet. I mean, it started off with Zap Beast, you know, like a very, very cool deck, and like a nice 1-prize counter box, essentially. And then, like, you got the iteration with Spikemuth later in its health. And even like Dawasi was playing ADP Spiritomb. It was like the first Players Cup or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember ADP Spiritomb. It's like you do an extra 30 damage and you go from a 3-prize deck to a 1-prize deck, and you play the Black Market Prism Star, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't take any prizes. And then your
opponent's never taking a single prize on a Spiritomb, and it's like there were so many cool things that were done with that card that, like, I don't know if you could do it with like anything else.
No, in terms of like, I'm struggling to think of what 1-prize deck could even do well in this format. Like, the only one that comes to mind is there's Decidueye, right?
There's Decidueye. There's like Rapid Strike Malamar that peeks its head every so often.
Yeah, but like Decidueye is good because of its ability, obviously, but like I would not call it a fun deck to pilot. You know, like Spiritomb was...
I don't know. I like walling off my opponent and making them not play the game. I think that's kind of fun. You know me, control guy.
Yeah, that's fair. But like Spiritomb, it not only was fun to play, but like it was a deck that taught a lot of people like sequencing and all of that stuff. Where like Decidueye as a 1-prize deck, it doesn't really teach you anything. It just kind of like, it teaches you not to overlook decks that can stop attackers. That's all.
I mean, I think Spiritomb was a super cool card. I remember the first tournament I played in, I played against Michael Pramwatt. We were at a local league challenge because Pram lives in Indianapolis, and I also lived in Indianapolis. And he walloped me. My very first like super competitive game, he walloped me with Zappies. It was bad. But Sean, we were challenged on Twitter to burn an ADP. You remember our infamousy last year for rotation. You burned a Guru on camera.
Yes.
For the Atlas Pog Championships. Do you have an ADP to burn? Because I don't, but I'm more than willing to draw one.
Give me a second.
Oh, okay. For everyone listening on YouTube YouTube, you can see exactly what's going on, but iTunes, Spotify, Sean has gotten up and Sean has left the desk. So it's just you and me now. So let's just share our deepest, darkest secrets. And Sean, welcome back.
Hi. I will say, I wish I had remembered to do that. I was going to potentially do this before I sold all of my bulk cards.
I was gonna say like I don't have an ADP, but I was gonna draw one on a piece of paper and do that.
I almost certainly do have an ADP. I'm trying to find it now. Because I actually, when I sold all my bulk cards, I had 6 extra ADPs that I sold.
6?
I know. Why did I have so many of this card that I don't like?
ADP in your bulk, like what?
I had 6 extras, 6 on top of the ADPs that I play. Where?
So you had 10.
Oh yeah, no, I had. I'm like looking through all my cards now, being like, where is this ADP? Okay, I'm never gonna need 4 ADPs, Jake. I have 2 rainbows and 2 regulars. I'm never gonna need 4. No deck in the world needs 4 ADPs. So
no, in expanded you need like 1.
I have to go get.
Went on turn 2 anyways.
Are we burning this, or do we want to make a separate little video that we post?
We'll make a separate video.
Okay.
So I don't want you to accidentally burn your entire
my house
place down.
It would do that. RCS would punish me for trying to burn him. So
I will say final thing before we go. I'm doing 2 things actually. I'm doing on Sunday, the 19th, I'm doing a little charity event, Stream for Starlight. I'm wearing the shirt right now. We're partnering up with the Starlight, which is a foundation for children cancer research. And so September is Childhood Cancer Research Month, or Cancer Awareness Month. They're holding an event called Stream for Starlight. So all month of September, there's so many different creators, streamers, YouTubers, all that stuff, raising money. And so we joined them. We got invited to join. And so we'll be doing that the 19th if you want to hang out on Twitch at AtrociousGameplay.
All right. Check out.
Oh, and then the second thing,
yes.
I have chosen to not go to Gen Con. I know we were talking about doing like an IRL pod and stuff and meetup and stuff. I'm not going to go to Gen Con. It's just Indiana's not doing great, or it's not getting better per se. Indiana's not getting better, and I live with 2 other people right now who are not young. So I just probably best. We got all the time in the world, Sean, to do something sometime, but probably not right now.
Yeah, I have every belief that the pod will still be going when the world is in a better place for us to do some meetups, and hopefully meetups at a regional event one day. Mm-hmm. So I respect, obviously, I respect your decision, Jake, and I will be at Gen Con. So anybody who
Sean's still going, you can go hang out with Sean.
If you're going to be there at Gen Con, I will also say though, like, don't feel the need to go out of your way. Fewer people together is always a good idea right now. But if you're going to be there already, just hit me up on Twitter. Just send me a DM or something. If you wanna say hi, and I'll be around. So
easy peasy.
Jake, I will make sure to go burn this for both of us, for everyone out there, for everyone who loved the single prize decks that never saw the light of day because of this card. I will burn that. We'll post it on our Twitter. Just that video. So
I can't wait to see it, Sean. And you know what? I can't wait to see you next week on the Metapod, the Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Sean, have a great rest of the day.